Hello, everybody, and welcome to my review of episode 5 of The Owl House. But before we begin, please consider subscribing to help us support the channel and liking and sharing the video. So, with that said, let's get into the episode. So we start off this episode with Ida, Luz, and King at Ida's stall, where she sells everything that she collects from the human world. And while we're there, Luz is seen reading from her book, and apparently this annoys Ida. It annoys her because she apparently doesn't like that the book is giving witches a bad name, that she doesn't like the fact that it basically romanticizes what actually happens with witches. And once we see that, we get to see Willow, and you know what? I finally remembered the guy's name. I didn't remember before, but now I do. Apparently, it's Gus, the Gordon Goodbrother type character. The guy's name was Gus. So they're here to tell Luz that apparently there is a convention for witches' covens. It's sort of like a job fair here in our world, where students get to go to a convention where they get to meet different people from different job professions, and they can ask them questions about, what their jobs include. Basically that sort of thing, except for witches. And they get to see, except instead of jobs, it's covens. Like, basically, it's where, in this world, it's where a group of witches and wizards get together to study a certain type of magic. Now, Ida says that they don't want to go because she doesn't like covens, because apparently it limits you, and we'll find out why in a little bit. So at first she tells Luz that no, I'm sorry, we can't go. But then Luz pretty much threatens to keep reading from the book that she doesn't like, and we get to see this gag where Ida tries to escape from the same door that Luz went through just to get to the Boiling Isles. But then we see Luz just throw King in there right before the door completely closes.
Screeching did worsen it!
Stop it! I will literally do anything to stop this!
I thought it was kind of funny, I'm sorry. And then Ida says yes, just to make them stop. So we get to the convention, right? And while there, Ida is trying to disguise herself because, she's a wanted criminal. I mean, we even see a bunch of wanted posters. And while we're there, we get to find out a little bit about Gus. And apparently his specialty is illusion magic. And he's even part of a coven that focuses on learning illusion magic. And then Luz asks Ida again why she doesn't like covens, and here we get to find out why. Ida says that apparently when you join a coven that chooses to focus on one type of magic, then you can only perform that type of magic. So basically what happens is the second you choose to join a coven, we see them placing like some sort of mark on your wrist, and apparently that seals away any other type of magic. So now you can only focus on the magic that the coven has decided to learn.
Ida, why haven't you ever joined one?
Watch closely, Luz. When you join a coven, all your other magic is sealed away. From now on, that kid will only be able to make illusions. Since I never joined a coven, I can do every kind of magic.
And when I saw this, I just keep thinking, well, if that's the case, then why don't you just join a coven that focuses on learning all types of magic? I mean, wouldn't that resolve it? In fact, I think we even see it afterwards, which we'll get to. I mean, I never understood why a coven would only focus on one. Anyway, later we get to this coven called the Emperor's Coven, and we find out that this coven directly works under the Emperor. All the members of this witches' coven directly work for the Emperor. Now, this is the first time we even hear of this Emperor, so we do get a little bit of world building. So that's good. I like that. And while in there, we get to meet the leader of the coven. And before we get to this point, there's just something I want to point out. There were a bunch of jokes in this episode that I just skipped, and I didn't really bring them up because they weren't really all that important. I mean, I guess I should say they weren't really all that funny. So I didn't really think they were worth mentioning. And we find out that the leader of the Emperor's Coven is apparently at first someone that Ida knows. Now, Ida tries to leave, but gets recognized by the leader, and we find out that it's Ida's sister, Lilith. But before we get on with that, there's something I want to point out. I want to talk about what Luz and King are doing, because that plot point does get tangled up with Ida's and her sister's story. So let's just cut to that for a second. After the sort of presentation of the coven, we see Luz walking out of the hall where they were doing the presentation, and she runs into Amity. Remember Amity from episode 2, or was it? No, it was episode 3. Yeah, the top student, the one who was a bitch, her. And Amity at first is not happy to see her there. Amity ends up purposely insulting King, and then when that happens, Luz, for some reason, decides to be an idiot, chooses to challenge Amity to a witches duel. Now, again, I didn't like this because it kind of makes Luz look like she's a trigger-happy moron. And I don't know why she would jump into a witch's duel when she barely knows anything about magic. Which, and now that I think about it, that on its own is a little weird. Like, are you telling me even up until now, you still haven't learned anything other than that light spell we saw you do in the previous episode? Nothing else? And if that's the case, why would you challenge somebody who's been studying magic since they were a toddler? I don't know. That was dumb. Anyway, they make a deal that if Luz loses, she has to promise never to practice magic again. And if Amity wins, she basically has to apologize to King. So, I don't know. I mean, that seems like an unfair bet to me. I mean, if Luz loses, she has to give up ever using magic ever again. And yet, if Amity if Amity loses, all she has to do is apologize? Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, they end up making something called a solemn vow to make sure that that they actually follow the deal that they made. And if you want to know what this deal looks like, think of the unbreakable vow from Harry Potter. Basically that. If you know what I'm talking about, if you've seen it, it's basically the same thing. So we cut to Ida and her sister. Ida tells her sister that she doesn't like the fact that she basically ended up joining a coven, and her sister says that at least she's doing something with her life. She's teaching the next generation of witches. And yet, Ida is basically just hogging all of her talents for herself. But then Ida tells her, no, I have a student, and you know what? I bet my student can be your student any day. And then Lilith actually takes her up on that challenge. Luz shows up, and she says to Ida, like, I challenged a witch to a witch's duel, and I don't know what I'm gonna do. And she even mentions the name Amity, and then Lilith says, well, this is a coincidence because your student just challenged my top student. So okay, Amity is a student of hers. Okay, we didn't know that, but. And in this moment, we get to, Luz is still complaining to Ida, saying that, what am I going to do? Like, I still don't know any magic. And then here, Ida finally acknowledges the fact that Luz has been here all this time, and she still hasn't taught her anything. And it's insane. Like, why? You took her on as a student, and yet she's been here for weeks, and you haven't taught her a damn thing. Jesus. And then Ida says, you know what, don't worry, it's fine, I have a plan. So we cut to the arena where they're about to fight. And Ida tells Luz, look, everything will be fine. Look at the mounds on the ground. And she says, all you have to do is lead her to them. And then she'll fall for the traps that I've set.
Get Amity to land on one of those and she'll set off my magic traps.
That's cheating.
So she's basically asking Luz to cheat. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. And also, what couldn't Amity just see them? I mean, they're kind of obvious. I mean, if Luz can see them, and if Ida can see them, oh well, Ida sees them because she's the one who made them. Okay, but now that I think about it, actually, when did she have time to do this? Like, they were just outside the convention, and the duel was just about to start shortly. So when did she have time to plant all of these traps? I don't know. That doesn't really make any sense. Anyway, they start the fight, and then Amity is seen summoning her abomination creature that we saw in in the second episode. So the fight starts off, and Luz is just running away, obviously, because she doesn't know anything. But while she does that, she leads the monster to one of these traps. And then one of the traps is set off, and the second you see it, all I could think is, wait a minute, you set up this trap for a witch's duel between two kids. I mean, isn't this a bit much? Is it... That if Amity accidentally stepped on one of those, it would have killed her, wouldn't it?
How did you do that? Magic?
I mean, it's like, Ida, did you not think about this? I mean, I know you can survive getting your head cut off, but that doesn't mean it's the same for everyone else. I mean, if it is, they certainly haven't told us this. Anyway, as the fight's continuing, the Abomination keeps falling for more of these traps that Ida set. And we get to see that more of these traps, they're a bit excessive. But then, this entire time, it was just the Abomination stepping on the traps. But now, Amity herself was about to step on one of them, but Luz stops her. She screams at her. She tells her, no, don't take another step. And then Amity asks, wait, why shouldn't I take another step? And then we see King, who was in the stands. He accidentally trips and falls on it. And when I saw this, all I could think, okay, Ida, this is a bit much. Like, this is bordering on child endangerment. We see spikes shoot out from the ground, and again, yeah, this would have killed them.
I'm okay.
Spikes? I knew it!
This would have killed them. Forget Amity. What if Luz accidentally stepped on one of them? She's human. She would have died. That would have killed her. Anyway, when this happens, Amity immediately figures out, and she says, you're cheating. She says that, aha, I knew you were cheating. And she gets disqualified. And Luz tries to explain to her that she didn't know about the traps, and when she did find out, she tried to stop it, but it was too late. However, Amity doesn't want to hear it. And then we find out, Ida, as Amity's walking away, Ida notices something on Amity's neck, like the back of her neck. And she pulls it off. And she says, wait a minute, this is a strength glyph. And we actually find out about this earlier in the episode. Apparently you can stick glyphs, like strips of paper on yourself with the glyphs on, and when you do, it gives you what the glyph stands for. Like you could get one for strength, I'm guessing others for wisdom, speed, other things. She had a strength enhancing glyph stuck to her neck. At first, she didn't know about this, but basically the same thing happens to her that happened to Luz. She tries to explain that she didn't know, but nobody would listen, and she ends up running off. And we find out that the one who gave it to her was actually Lilith, her teacher. And Ida's just jumping for joy because basically she found out that according to her perfect sister actually ended up screwing up. So she just keeps making fun of her. And Lilith says, like, I only did this because I knew you would cheat. And all I can think is that doesn't matter. Just because you knew someone was going to cheat doesn't give you the right to cheat. And you basically ended up humiliating your own teacher in front of other students. Like, so they're both terrible teachers. Okay, they both suck. Oh my gosh. These two need to get some new teachers. And then after this, Amity runs off. She runs out of the arena. Luz chases after her. And we get, I guess, sort of a moment where we get a bit of a look into Amity and her, like her mind, like how she thinks of things. It's a good moment.
I'm sorry.
Seriously, just leave me alone.
I didn't mean to embarrass you.
That's all you ever do. First at school and now this.
Yeah, but...
You made me look like a fool in front of the Emperor's Coven. My future! You think it's so easy to be a witch. I have been working my whole life to get to the top.
And we get to a good moment between Amity and Luz. I don't know if this, like, they're done with this whole rivalry thing. But I don't know. I'm hoping that moving forward, Amity won't just be someone who's mean just for the sake of being mean, because that's kind of a tired trope, if I'm being honest. And during that moment, we find out that Luz tells Amity that, you know, she doesn't have a natural affinity for magic like she does, that she has to find a workaround, like she has to improvise. And then Amity basically breaks the vow that they made, and I don't know how you can do that. I mean, it's called, and you even called it like an unbreakable vow, didn't you? So and now you can just break it like it's nothing. Okay. Maybe it can be broken, but it has to be by maybe by the one who made the vow. And Luz asks Amity, like, okay, so does that mean I can continue practicing magic? And Amity just says, look, humans can't do magic, but then again, I don't think that's gonna stop you. Yeah, we all know that. So once this is done, we cut.
Say goodnight, sister.
The animation was actually pretty damn good, or at the very least the choreography for the fight was actually pretty good. The animation in itself wasn't perfect. There were moments where the animation was pretty fluid, but there were also moments where it was kind of choppy. Like you can tell that they skipped a few frames, and there was even a moment where Ida was like her character model was off, and it was kind of noticeable. It was hard not to notice. Anyway, Ida, from what it looked like, Ida lost that fight. Ida lost that fight, and it's just yeah. So I'm wondering if, but the way it ended, I don't know if Ida like purposely gave up, or if she just didn't want to continue the fight, or if she like because she knew she was gonna lose. And then Ida and King, and then Luz, and then they all pretty much leave. And then right as the episode ends, we find out that Lilith was actually given an assignment by the Emperor to capture Ida.
Lilith, I see you let the Owl Lady get the best of your temper. Just remember what Emperor Belos has promised you.
I will capture her, ma'am. You have my word.
Very good.
Why they need to capture her, I don't know. I guess we'll find out. And that was the episode. So overall, I thought it was an okay episode. It wasn't great. I don't know if I'd call it good. It was okay. Again, it's just like so far the first 5 episodes, except for maybe episode 3, they've just been okay. They were fine. Nothing really great, nothing to write home about. Again, it's just the first 5 episodes. Again, I still have hope that this series is gonna pick up. I'm hoping. And that is going to be it for this episode. Please subscribe to let you know when my review for episode 6 comes out. Until then, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.